Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Tom's Gadget Garage. Today I'm out here in Tempe, Arizona for a nice little night ride on the Ausom L2 Max Dual Motor Edition. You know, one of the things that I've realized is that one of the best stress relievers after a long day of work is just to hop on a scooter and let it rip, you know, and that's exactly what I'm doing today. We're just gonna cruise around the Tempe Town Lake area, one of my favorite night ride spots, and see what's going on, see how this scooter handles it. Go ahead and turn on our turn signals here. One of the things that I really like about riding around here in Tempe is that it's very kind of pedestrian, bicycle, scooter friendly place, you know. I call it the scooter capital of Arizona because there's so many rental scooters out here, but it is a Thursday evening and it's relatively quiet, no events going on out here, so I think it's the perfect time to take a ride. I'm gonna go ahead and put this thing into race mode. Come in through here. Nice little tight curve in the road. And we can let it rip. So, you know, this is yet another video that I've created on this scooter. I've created a ton of content so far. Range test, hill climb test, extreme hill climb test, feature overview, the whole 9 yards. So if you want to check that content out, I'll put links in the description below. But anyways, really nice scooter to rip around on. This particular Ausom scooter has got dual 1,000 watt motors, which combined can put out 2,688 watts of peak power. So lots of power to be had, and what's impressive about it is that's coming out of a 48 volt system. And I'll tell you right now, I mean, cruising around on this thing does not feel like a 48 volt scooter, you know. It's kind of sits somewhere just below the original Ausom Gallop, you know. Not as, I would say, not as punchy off the line as the Ausom DT1 Pro, but still very powerful scooter. I've got the acceleration settings dialed down right now, I think level 2 out of 5. It comes out of the box, I think, at 3, and for me that's just a little too twitchy, you know. Off the line, that's great, but for everyday riding, I think 2 is just perfect. We'll go ahead and cruise on over this pedestrian bridge here. It's one of the things that I really like about this place is it's very well lit. Always exciting stuff to see. Got people on scooters. Looks like a lot of people doubling up tonight. 2 people, 1 scooter. Sounds like a logistical challenge to me, but to each their own. All right, I think we'll head on over this way. We'll go to our normal spot, take a look at the view of the city. Oh, got some sand there. That's always fun to ride over on a scooter. Now I am recording this video with the Insta360 X5. Today I'm doing it in 5.7K. I did 8K last time, but I got some strange black lines on the screen. It seems something with the stabilization or what. That was when I was cruising around on the Apollo Phantom 2.0. You don't see it on the preview on the camera, it's just when you export it to a computer. So I don't know, we'll see how 5.7K does. Not as high a resolution, but I think that's the recommended setting for these low light conditions anyways. All right, I'm gonna pull into this area here. Looks like we got some water. We had lots of rain over the last several days, which is always welcome out here in the desert, I'll tell you that. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and park the scooter, show you the lighting setup on this thing. So here's a quick view of Tempe Town Lake. Beautiful buildings, always well lit, exciting place to ride around at night. I've been out here on scooters, e-bikes, and never fails to impress. Here is the Ausom L2 Max dual motor. As you can see, it's got that nice deck lighting on the top. You can always turn that off as well. You know, double click the, let's see, double click what? Double click the plus button and that turns it off. There you go. Double click it again. It'll turn those lights back on. You got headlight up front, and then tail light and turn signals, which I'll turn on right now, in the rear. So pretty sweet setup. Anyways, back to our ride. This scooter does have park mode, which is, in my opinion, a very annoying feature that scooter companies like to put on their scooters. In order to get out of park mode, though, you can't just pull the brakes. You have to, you know, hit the plus button to get back into gear, and I gotta toggle back up to race mode. But anyways, this L2 Max dual motor does come with a coil spring suspension. It's got some rubber dampening, and overall I think the suspension is quite nice on this scooter, especially considering the price. I think, you know, the scooters right now, when they initially released it, it was $899. Now I think it's $949. I've got a discount code in the description below. I believe that should give you $50 off, so it'll still take it back to that kind of pre-order price that it launched at. You know, if you come from a, you know, commuter style scooter like your Segway 9-Bot Max G3, NIU KQI 300X, VMAX VX4, those kind of scooters, when you move over to something like this, I mean, it's a whole nother ball game. You know, obviously it's a much heavier scooter, I think just above 70 pounds or so, but you get a ton more power with this thing. And that's one of the things that Ausom is known for, is, you know, selling scooters with pretty substantial amount of power for a very affordable price. You know, I remember when I first took delivery of the original Ausom Gallop, I think I had the second review on YouTube on that scooter back in, well, it must have been like November of 2023, and I was blown away. I was like, there's got to be something wrong with this scooter. Like, for this price, you know, at that point in time, you know, scooters of the same specs were selling for $500–600 more. And so I thought to myself, my gosh, I mean, what are they hiding here? Turns out nothing. You know, original Ausom Gallop is one of my favorite all-time scooters. You know, if weight isn't a factor and you're looking to, you know, pick up a scooter under $1,000, this is definitely something that you should consider, because, you know, you do get a lot of scooter for the money. Now, it doesn't have hydraulic brakes. I know a lot of folks will kind of ding it on that. It would be nice to see hydraulic brakes on there, but as long as you have these adjusted properly, these cable actuated disc brakes, the braking power is more than sufficient. I have no problems at all whatsoever with the brakes on this scooter. And so I did, you know, some brake tests on my first impressions ride. Also did take this up 17+ miles of windy mountain roads, and 8 miles of that was basically all downhill. And that was a great test for the brakes on this scooter, and it performed beautifully. You know, a little ways ahead, we'll have a little place where we can test out, you know, hill climbing ability on a 12% grade. I think we'll try it out in dual motor and single motor, see how it does, how it compares. You know, keep in mind this is a dual motor scooter, so it's really going to be optimized for those, you know, hilly environments. So if you got hills and stuff like that, this can absolutely get the job done. Like I was mentioning, I took this on my endurance hill climb up 17.5 miles of windy mountain roads, and I also took it on my extreme hill climb, which is over 23% grade. So I'll include those videos in the description below. Actually, a link to the entire video library, so if you want to check any of that out, you have that at your disposal. In addition to the disc brakes on this scooter, you've also got electronic braking in the front and rear motor. And so you can actually go into the P settings on this scooter and make adjustments to that. And you can either increase the strength of the electronic braking or decrease the strength. When you release the throttle on this scooter, it doesn't have, you know, regen like you'd find on some city commuter scooters. Some of those, you know, you release the throttle and it kicks in regenerative braking. That's not the case with this scooter. Electronic braking is activated when you pull on the brake levers. And so if you lightly pull on them, you'll feel the electronic brake kick in. And if you pull them full blast, you'll have electronic brake as well as your disc brakes going. So lots of options for stopping power on this scooter. All right, we're going to transition over to this dirt path here. This L2 Max dual motor does have hybrid tires. They're 10-inch by 3-inch tubeless pneumatic tires, which is a departure from what you normally see on Ausom scooters, which are tubed tires with more aggressive hybrid tread. This setup here is tubeless with a much quieter tread pattern, so you don't have to worry about loud droning when you're cruising around. But anyways, all right, we are in race mode, which is the top speed mode on this scooter. This is a 12% grade, and we're gonna turn into that now. Throttle's all the way in. As you can see, we are accelerating up this grade. So as you can see, hills are not a problem for this scooter. Now we're gonna do the same thing in single motor mode. That'll be an interesting test. See if this has what it takes to make it up with one motor. That's single motor has got a peak output of about 1,344 watts. Okay, I'm gonna try and come to a near stop, and I'm gonna pull on the throttle. Single motor mode, 1,344 watts of power. And even at this, we are slowly accelerating up the hill. So even in single motor mode, 12% grade's not gonna be a problem. All right, I forgot we're still in single motor mode, but we're in single motor mode, race mode. Throttle's all the way in, and I mean, display is showing over 30 miles an hour. Usually these screens are off by a couple miles an hour, but still pretty solid performance out of single motor mode. So now we're back in dual motor mode. Here we go. We're gonna go under the bridge. Gets a little bumpy through some of these areas, but we've got that suspension. Oh, much better lighting here today. Now, I've mentioned this on several of my videos in the past, but this scooter is very stable, even when riding around at top speed. You don't even have a hint of speed wobbles, which is huge, because I don't wish speed wobbles on anybody. That's a very terrifying scenario to be in, especially if you can't control it. And so this scooter's got a nice, very subtle notch in the steering, which helps keep things nice and straight, and a good rake angle on the stem itself. You know, it's not too vertical. It's, you know, pitched backwards a little bit. And so very stable riding platform, and very forgiving riding platform. We're cruising down this path right now. Screen's showing 35, 36. I'll let it open more when we get onto an actual road surface. But you look at my hands. There's no wobble, there's no shake, none of that. Because this thing is stable. And that's one of my #1 criteria with scooters. I don't want to be farting around with speed wobbles. I want to go out and relax, enjoy myself. Curious to see how this suspension does going through this tunnel. At the end of it, you got like ripples in the concrete, which really put the suspension to test. Usually results in some scooters in some pretty intense vibrations coming through the handlebars, but we'll see how it does. Not bad. Not bad at all. Holy cow, freaking dog chasing me. Jeez Louise. That thing has 4-wheel drive, that dog. Oh. Alright, anyways. That's why we can let it rip on this scooter, you know, and leave the dogs behind. 40 on the screen and no speed wobbles, folks. Now on these scooters, one of the places where you could potentially run into speed wobbles is when you're going, you know, 35, 40 plus miles an hour, and you abruptly release the throttle, you can induce a speed wobble on a lot of scooters. Same thing with hitting the brakes too abruptly. You know, so that's why whenever I'm done with a speed test, I will slowly release my finger off that throttle. So, you know, we don't get any weird stuff, but even if you do it abruptly on this scooter, it's nice and smooth. You know, unfortunately, we have to go back the way we came, so I hope that dog is secured. Oh, I mean, that dog was quick. You know, he was right on my tail. I didn't know. I heard some feet scurrying. And I was like, nah, he's got to be quite a ways behind me. And then I turned around and looked, and he was like, I would say 5-6 feet away from the back end of the scooter. So that's pretty crazy. If we were on a slower scooter, you know, a regular like commuter scooter, oh, my ankles would have been chewed up. My ankles would stand no chance against that dog. Glad I rode this scooter today. That's all I'm saying. so that was a nice little test. Can this scooter outrun a dog? Yeah, it sure can. If you're prepared for it, you know. I was in race mode. I was ready to rock and roll, baby. Can you outrun a grizzly bear or something like that? I don't know. Those things are pretty fast. But anyways. All right, I'm gonna make my way back, and hopefully Kuho is back with its owner. Cruising around. It says 36. It's probably closer to 33. But yeah, really fun ride. This scooter's got a 20.8 amp hour battery, so 48 volt system, 20.8 amp hours, 998 watt hours of capacity. So for the price, you know, that's a jumbo battery. There's a lot of scooters that sell around the same price point that have much smaller batteries, you know, 13 to 15 amp hours. This one's much bigger. That's just gonna translate into some additional range for you. You know, obviously it's a heavier scooter. It's got dual motors, but it did pretty well on my range test. Actually outperformed the DT1 Pro by a hair, you know, not much of a difference, but just around 30 miles, just shy of 30 miles. I think it was like 29.6. All right, folks, so we are approaching the end of our ride. I got about 47 volts. So what I'll do is I'll come up this ramp. We'll head back out onto the streets, see how quick we can get this scooter going at 47 volts. And then we'll head on back to the parking garage and call it a night. All right, here we go. Coast is clear. You can definitely feel a slowdown in the acceleration, which is to be expected with any PEV. As you run down, the battery voltage goes down, you get less output, but on the screen, I'm showing 38. There's a speed limit sign. Let's see how fast we're going. Is it gonna work? No, it didn't catch us. But as you can see, 39 on the screen, so we're probably going about 36. Very stable. All right, come through this nice turn here. See how this does on the train tracks. Boom, went right over that. So as you can see, this is a very versatile scooter. You know, packs a lot of punch for its price range at about 900 bucks. We'll go through the parking garage here. We'll head on up to the roof. I'll pull over here and see how we did. All right, folks, so there you have it. That was our night ride on the Ausom L2 Max Dual Motor Edition. And we were cruising around for quite a while, 23.6 miles. We've still got 45% battery remaining in the tank. And so very versatile scooter, lots of power. Really happy with what Ausom has been able to deliver at this price point. But anyways, like I was mentioning before, if you want to check out any of that other content, the feature overview, first impressions ride, the hill climb test, extreme hill climb test, the range test, I've got all of that linked in the description below. And if you do want to pick up one of these scooters, I will include an affiliate link and that discount code in the description. And if you use that to make your purchase, it absolutely helps support this channel, keeps the wheels moving on future reviews. As always, thank you so much for tuning into Tom's Gadget Garage. We'll see you next time.